All right, no preamble music today. Got a slightly new setup, so hopefully it's working. All right, I'll leave this up. First things first, I'm going to use the multi-expression base mesh from 3D Scan Score, just in case I want to do something with this later. I can always transfer it to another topology or something, but this is a decent enough base mesh to start with. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. Let's see, 1, 2 connected. Okay, good. Everything should be working. If it's not, let me know. All right, so we're gonna do a, we'll start with this and we'll see how many I can get done in 2 hours. So just kind of grabbing some general reference, eBay, just kind of looking at the overall shape, and this looks like it's gonna be some Boolean work. So I've got a whole bunch of, let me go to my folder here. Last night I downloaded, all right, I got some names lined up. So we're going to say Ghostface, Kruger, Leatherface, Meyers, Pennywise, Pinhead, Voorhees. I think I'm going to start with Voorhees. I think that'll be a easy enough start. So I can't really tell what's going on underneath his head. I think he was kind of like a lumpy hunk. I don't know if hunk's the right word, but let's go ahead and turn on X symmetry just by tapping X on your keyboard. I'm going to kind of thicken him out a little bit. Just use a little bit of move brush here. And we'll kind of stump out his face just a bit. And I think there was some weird stuff, maybe some cauliflowering going on with his ears. I don't really remember exactly the story, but we'll go ahead and just use the inflate brush and just kind of inflate this down a little bit here. And we're not going to see the face, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone. But I do remember, you know, I'm kind of looking at the reference here. I'm just going to do a quick Jason Voorhees search here. Not that we're going to see a ton of it, but oh, I guess this will be rated gross. Rated G for gross. There we go. Kind of like fluffy tufts of hair, kind of a bottom lake lumpy skull. So I guess we'll kind of lean into that. So I'm going to take my Damien standard brush, and I'm just going to kind of, I guess that would be kind of following the temporal line, right? Or I don't know, there's something weird going on. But basically, oh, you know what? Let's grab a skull. Hit the comma key, go into Tool, and grab the Ryan Kingsline Anatomy model. And we have the skeleton selected, so if I go in here to transparency with ghost turned on, you'll see, you can see like through the muscles here. And essentially what I'm talking about, if I go into solo mode, is this line right here. Let me see, standard brush, RGB on, red. This line right here is going to be kind of a temporal line, and there's going to be a little muscle, little wad of muscle that goes down here, and that's, I guess, a good enough dividing line for anything else. So, and we may steal some teeth from that for some of the future folk we may be doing. So anyway, just following that line up, that'll be a good enough place to kind of put a real lump in there. And then there's the zygomatic and stuff. But I said he was, and we'll also go into clay buildup. Clay brush, clay buildup, standard brush. Those are the general buildup brushes that I'm going to use. And then Damien standard, Dam standard 02 is a good creature brush. I'm going to hold down shift and turn down my Z intensity. By default, I have my smooth brush modifiers. You'll see the weighted smooth mode is set to 1, which is smooth stronger. Also another thing with these Halloween-y slasher folk is they're usually hyper masculine. So big brow ridge, big jaw, big chin, you know, that kind of stuff. So we'll go ahead and take this neutral base mesh and we'll just kind of beef it up just a bit. And again, we're not going to see much of this, but I guess we can get a little bit of work done in maybe if we do end up doing a character where we'll see a little bit more of their face. Hellraiser or Freddy Krueger or something like that. So anyway, we got a lumpy head going. I'm going to go ahead and, again, that, I guess it would be like the temporal muscle. This is your masseter down here. So this kind of your chewing muscle. He gets some reps in on his chewing. And again, we're just kind of lumping out his skull here. So we do have, this base mesh does have subdivisions here. So if you go back through the chat, you should be able to, once the link is working again, downloads as base mesh, or you can go into the comma key tool. There's humanoids in here, and then if you go into project, there's heads and male and female bodies and stuff like that. So you can, all sorts of ways you can kind of start. Now again, you know, damn standard 02 is something you'd have to download from the internet, but that might be something to check out. It's, you got to make kind of a big brush size, but it's really nice for kind of cutting in nice, sharp little folds here. So again, we're not going to see much of his face, so don't spend a ton of time here. But okay, just lumping it out, getting his little weirdo ear. Hey, John Yu. How you sign? How's it going, everybody? So I'm going to go through here, and then you know, we'll shape up these ears just a tiny bit. So this ear is going to scoop down in here, and looks like maybe this ear will kind of connect through here. I mean, you can also play this up a little bit too. Oops, let's turn off RGB here. Turn off colorize, and turn Z back on from a standard brush. And you know, let's crank up our Z intensity a bit. Crank our lazy radius up underneath stroke. Lazy mouse, lazy radius, and then tap L to turn lazy radius or lazy stroke off, just because I don't really need it, but if I do, I can use that. So again, we'll just kind of maybe go through here and exaggerate some of these features just a bit here. Take this out here. Okay, so now we need to do the hockey mask, which we have on here. So I'm just going to get, you know, I'm going to leave this one alone. I'm just going to duplicate this off. And on this duplicate, I'm just going to run a Dynamesh. It's under geometry Dynamesh. Let's go into, we're in solo mode. Geometry Dynamesh here. However, should be able to, do I have anything weird going on? Oh, okay, I got a ton of layers on this. I'm going to say Bakal. There we go. And then, yeah, so Dynamesh. Just control drag the Dynamesh. And I don't need anything super high, so I can just kind of dial in that resolution. Of course, Dynamesh is right here. Something like this. And it's going, this mask is going to generally fit over his face here. I guess this we can probably just leave alone. So I'm just going to kind of smooth out that surface. We're going to generate that mask on. And in fact, if it's going to sit on his face, maybe we'll inflate it. That's going to be under deformation inflate. And maybe we'll just inflate this by 8 or so, Dynamesh. That'll give us a good surface to work on. And then it looks like this is going to cut across pretty high on his head, right about here. And then kind of back, almost where it touches his ear. Here, and then it kind of shoots forward, kind of hugs his face quite a bit. I mean, I guess that makes sense. If this is a functioning hockey mask, you need it to protect your gross little head. So, all right. So we got the overall form here. And then where the eyeballs are, these just look like little, and we also want it where the eyes are going to be, so these look like just a little teardrop. It's kind of little round. Nothing too descript on this thing. There's some hockey masks that are pretty intense in their designs, but this one's pretty simple, which is good for a live stream. Okay, so if we turn on our polyframe here, you see this is all just one polygroup minus where it filled the hole for us. We can go down here to geometry, edge loop. We'll do a quick edge loop mask border. That'll go ahead and slice this around. Yeah, okay. And actually, before we hop out of here, let's go ahead and grab a little bit of our clay buildup here. And actually, let's turn on our polyframe and we'll turn off line so we can actually sculpt with our poly paint on a little bit. I'm just going to kind of smooth out some of these features. He doesn't have like cheekbones or anything on his hockey mask. It's all pretty smooth. So we'll just kind of use our clay buildup here. And then his nose is just kind of a lump. So we'll go ahead and fill this in a little bit. There's no mouth, so we'll go ahead and cover this up. And then hold down Shift to smooth. Again, if I need to crank up my Z intensity on my smooth, I can feel free to do that, and you can too. So here we're going to smooth here. There's actually a cool, so we're kind of smoothing over that poly group, and you see it was clean, and then as we start smoothing, it might start aliasing out again. We can definitely fix that, but there's a cool way to fix that with a smooth brush. We'll get there in just a second. So again, smoothing out the face here, maybe a little clay buildup. I'm just kind of erasing any indication that there was a human face under here, and we're just replacing it with just volume, I suppose. Loose or smooth form. There we go. Smooth, 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 smooth. Same thing here. We'll just kind of build this up a little bit. There we go. And in fact, one thing we could do is underneath the deformation menu, there is a, so if we just do a polish, that'll polish everything. If we do a polish by features, we can polish and it'll actually sharpen up that line. So that's one way you could do it. In fact, if you wanted to mask, underneath your mask settings here, masking, you could say mask by our poly groups. That'll mask your loop here, Control Tab to inverse that. And then you can do a polish by features and just polish those lines. In fact, you could do polish by features open circle, and that's going to polish the heck out of your face. And I think that's pretty good. That's a pretty good look for the mask that we're going for. So, and you don't have to drag it. If you just tap, it'll just kind of do it slowly. I think that's pretty decent. Maybe just do a slight inflate over this nose just a bit. Yeah, that's about right, I think. Maybe a little bit more roundy for the face and the mouth here. It doesn't matter. We'll get it. So now the other thing I was going to mention is if you hold down, well, if you go into comma key, brush, smooth, LMNOPQRS, smooth. Wait. There it is. There is a smooth groups in here, and in fact, if you, as we talked about before, hold down Shift. There's the weighted smooth mode. You can just you can put it here by. You don't have to load that smooth brush in. You can just say groups border is 6, so just switch this to 6, and then now let me see if I can alias, or let's go in here with our move brush and we'll kind of wiggle this line a little bit. If you hold down Shift and start smoothing with 6 enabled, it'll smooth that polygroup border. That's just a cool way to do it, but I'm gonna put this back down to a smooth weight, weighted mode of 1. And now we can just use this as our mask. Sorry, that was a lot of talking for a simple procedure. So Control Shift click this to get our mask shape. I'm going to say geometry modified topology, delete hidden. If we turn our line back on in our poly frame, you're going to see the geometry is not that great. And I want to simplify this geometry so I can kind of get that egg shape a little bit easier. I mean, I can do it now. I can just go into my move brush and start making changes to kind of egg this out a little bit, just kind of oval it out, and then I can use my polish by features to smooth again. But if you go down here to ZRemesher, we'll just say half, depth size down to 0, nice even quads, ZRemesh, X symmetry is turned on, so it'll be a symmetrical mesh, and just keep hitting ZRemesh half. That'll go ahead and simplify this geometry. So I'm pulling around less points, and I might make wrangling this a little bit easier. So this goes back a little bit, and we don't have any, so the straps I'm seeing come on as buttons, so we don't need to do any fancy loops or anything or cut in any holes. It's just buttons. So I think we'll be okay, like so. And again, if we just go into our polish by features and just tap, that'll kind of give us just to kind of smooth that out a little bit. And then we'll just kind of go through the sides. Everything looks good. Okay. We got the lumpy nose. Now, we're going to add thickness to this, and we're also going to add holes. Let's load in an image so we can kind of cheat a little bit. Texture import. It's not cheating. It's just using reference, right? So we're going to go in here to, what are we doing today? Streaming. Let me grab one of these pictures. Mask. Yeah, this is a good one. Here, we'll just add it. And if you, so black and ZBrush goes to transparent. If you want to make it so it's not that, you can go in here to intensity on the, what is this? Spotlight slider, and we can just zoom this out a little bit. Oh, speaking of, let me load these up real quick. What do we need? YouTube, ArtStation, I think, is the two we usually go to. Playlists, YouTube playlists. Created. Hold on just a second.
And make it bounceable and collidable, and then maybe turn that into a foam object. And again,
there we go. So on the playlist here, I don't know, you guys know the drill by now. There's all sorts of playlists in there you can check out, and then on my session page there's intro to ZBrush, and then a bunch of what's new stuff in here, and like little projects with ZBrush and such. So feel free to check those out. If you're new to ZBrush or you're wondering what I'm using and how I'm using it, just type in, for example, like what did he just say? Spotlight. You just go in here and say Spotlight, and then there's all sorts of videos on what Spotlight is and how to use it. So anyway, we're gonna put this in here. We're gonna hit Z to go into Spotlight mode. Actually hit Z again and we'll hop back into this mode, which is we can control the opacity. So we can just kind of match what this has here, and you know, we can egg this out a little bit more, take away a little bit of his jawline here, and we'll refit it back to his head when we get in there. So here we are, a little more eggy. Looks like our eyes are a little. Here's another thing we can do too. Let's go into movie, timeline, show. Just tap in that timeline so we can move our camera around, and then we'll use our arrow keys left and right to put that back. So again, we'll just kind of match these eyeballs a little bit here. That's good enough. And again, we'll finesse it once we're back in there. So now we know where all of our landmarks need to go, and a lot of these are just going to be holes we're going to punch in. So I'm going to hold down Shift and Smooth. Let's drop our Z intensity down. Good enough overall shape. We'll make sure this fits over his eyes when we get there. But yeah, let's turn off solo mode. Polyframe, transparency. And then if I need to, let's scale this up just a bit so it kind of fits over his head. We'll maybe move it out just a bit and just cheat this a slight bit so it goes over his jaw. And you know what? Maybe we'll push his jaw back just a tad. And his brow. Okay. Got it. So if we alt tap here on his head. Okay, so we're going to poke holes through this head and we're going to ZRemesh it. So let's go ahead and give this some thickness here. I'm going to go into my Z modeler brush, B, Z, M, hover over a face. We're going to say extrude, polygroup all. I'm going to pull out just a tiny bit, and then on the inside I'm going to pull in and then hold down Shift. So I'm just pushing along those surface normals just to give this a little bit of thickness in that direction. And again, we're probably going to rebuild this. I'm not overly concerned, but if we hit D right now, that's going to turn on our dynamic subdivision. So Shift D turns it off, D turns it on, and I want to crease those polygroup borders. So I'm going to say crease PG. That's underneath your geometry crease menu. Just right here, there's a little crease PG, which is a crease polygroup. So now my edges will stay nice and sharp where that polygroup is, and I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to do anything like, you know, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3 in my dynamic, because, you know, I don't want any fall off. I'm going to be ZRemeshing this, and I want to keep it really crispy. So crease level of 15 all the way. Okay, so Shift Z, we'll put this back, and then we need to put our holes in this mask. Let's go ahead and I'm going to match our reference because we scaled it up a little bit. I'm going to reposition my camera here, and then I'm going to drag this dot out and then put a dot back in there to reposition and reset that camera. In fact, what we could do is underneath our dynamic, we'll just hit apply and we'll hit Control D to give us even more subdivision. So dynamic apply makes the dynamic subdivision, the fake ones, real. And now we have a lot of verts, and with a lot of verts, I can go into my standard brush or BPA, our paint brush, and we can go in here to brush samples, turn on spotlight projection, and we can literally just paint. It's symmetrical, so I'm just going to paint one side and we'll just have symmetry on the other side where these holes are going to go. Cool, so we can kind of indicate where those are going to go. Let's go in here to render fade opacity, and we'll drop that back a little bit. And then now BI brush insert IMM primitives, hit M, grab insert cylinder. I have a high res, it doesn't matter. Insert cylinder is fine. Now I want these to all be the same size. So when I start dragging out, I'm gonna first go up here and say delete lower on your geometry. So I can drag this out here. I'm gonna hold down Control. In fact, let's go out of solo mode. So while I'm doing this, you're gonna see, so I'm starting to drag out, and then if I hold down Control, it'll snap to the brush size. So if I need to tap S to make this a little smaller, or go up here to draw size and tweak this, I can do that. And now I can just quickly drag these in. Now I do want to make sure, if I go into solo mode, I want this to punch all the way through my object while I'm doing this. So let's go in here to depth, embed. You can drag this down, or you can just type in 0. And then now, when I drag it out, it'll punch all the way through. Maybe we'll embed it just a little bit more, so it's a little bit more halfway. So now I can just very quickly kind of go through here and just drop these in, and we're going to Boolean these out. Yeah, okay. That's, you know what, just a tiny bit more. Okay, so here, and then we've got these three on the side, so we'll say U. And while I'm doing this, it is keeping my normal set. It's just kind of, it's taking the surface normal and just dragging it onto that surface normal, so it's going to follow the face, which is precisely what I want. Now, when I did half, it kind of put these a little close together, so I'm going to fudge this a little bit and just kind of go, the distance between them is fine, it's just, I need to kind of, again, like I said, fudge it a little bit. And then he's got a cute little triangle right about here. And then he's got a little, what's it called? A little button clasp, which we have. And we'll get there in a second. So this is what we're looking for. When we want to go paint, we can paint those on in just a second. I think we're in good shape. So if I go out of solo, or we're in solo mode, and this is all one subtool. However, I want to use these as Booleans. So let's do that. Autosave. Get it? Okay. In fact, we don't need the skeleton right now, so let's say delete all. So when you autosave, it says a Z project, which is all your tools loaded over here. So you have a bunch of stuff in here you're not using. Get rid of it. It'll autosave faster. Now, if I go in here back to render fade opacity down to 0, that'll show us our full. Let's make it so we can see a little bit better. So now, Control Shift tap these and Control Shift drag, or Control Shift tap with Control Shift is going to be select racked, so you can very quickly grab all these polygroups, Control Shift drag to invert that selection, and then we'll say split mask points, which is going to be under the split menu here. However, let me see, not split mask points, split hidden. There we go. So now this is below, and if it's not, if you said, you know, another kind of split and it was above, just grab this little arrow key and put it down below. We'll turn off our original sculpted head. We'll turn off colorize, so let's hold down shift to turn off those paintbrush icons, and then turn this one to subtractive, turn live Boolean on, and now these are live, so if I move these around, unmask here, if I move these around, they'll update on the fly. So you can just use live Booleans, but these are pretty much exactly where I want them, so I'm not overly concerned. So now, problem with this isn't real. If I just turn this one off, they disappear, right? So with these showing, I'm going to go down here. Well, first thing, we want a polygroup where this thing cuts in, and luckily these are all set to their own polygroups. Just to make sure this is really nice and crispy for me, you can kind of see there's a little bit of faceting here. I'm going to hit, let's go into solo mode so you can see what I'm doing. So there's no creasing on here. I'm just going to go to geometry crease and just run a crease tolerance. That'll crease those edges based on the normal threshold. Now I'm going to go in here to, again, it'll turn on dynamic. That'll, if I turn this off, you'll see it's a little faceted. Turn it on. Ooh, nice and smooth. It's not real geometry though. Actually, did I hit subdivide? Maybe I did hit subdivide. Let's say delete higher. If I turn on dynamic instead of divide, dynamic, so dynamic off, dynamic on. If I like this, I can just hit apply. That'll give me real subdivisions. Of course, you can just hit divide a couple times to get real subdivisions. So anyway, now that I've done all of that, with these showing, I can go into Boolean, dynamic subdivision. Doesn't have to be on because we made them real subdivisions. And then we'll say make Boolean mesh. And then I'll go ahead and process this into a U mesh, which is going to be sitting out in our tool palette here. And now I have real geometry. Problem is, this geometry is a little bit gross. I think we can fix it. I'm going to turn on X to go into X symmetry again. ZRemesh, we'll just do it upsize down to 0 again. Half, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0. These are already smooth. They're nice and Boolean. We don't need to have it melt our mesh anymore. And then we'll go ahead and process this. We don't have to ZRemesh everything. What I mean by that is it's ZRemeshing the red part, the little depth part, and also the back part. So it's going to take a long time. But however, I kind of sometimes do that when I'm doing complex meshes just to hold the shape a little bit better. What I'm saying is you can Control Shift click this red, geometry modify topology, delete hidden, and then you can just ZRemesh half. Where am I at? Wake up, Mike. ZRemesh half this with no polygroups, and it'll probably do fine. If you notice that it's not doing as great, like I said, you can just keep all this stuff in here and then ZRemesh half with keep groups on, smooth groups down to 0 because they're already smooth. And that might work a little bit better. Okay. Sorry, I need to... settings... appearance. I need to, hold on. Scale. There we go. Sorry about that, this is big. Hey, let me get caught up on chat. Yes, good morning. It is bright and early. And there's October, which means there's something in the air that's allergies to me. Jason from part 4. Let me look that up. Jason IV. Roman numeral Jason mask. I want to see. Oh, yeah. Gnarly. I'll have these up so when I go and paint it up. And demo is pretty cool. You posted workflows are getting pretty insane lately. Oh, there's so much cool stuff I want to do with Unreal. That's kind of where I've been spending most of my time lately. So, hey, maybe some more of those. You know, Unreal. And the only reason I made that one is because I couldn't really find that information very easily. So I was like, once I found it, I was like, okay, let me go ahead and make a video for this so people don't have to scrounge. I'm doing good, Cobalt. Thanks for asking. I taking part in the ZRemesh Summit? No, but I'll be eyeballing in maybe. Yeah, let's do the Meyers mask next. There's a way to use elements from the pop-up default menu that appears with the spacebar. Use them, yes. I don't know how to change anything in here though. Like you can definitely like use this all the time. Like I'll tap S to go into draw size, but you can also hold down spacebar. All sorts of really cool stuff you can do in here. I don't know how to customize this. It goes beyond my brain capabilities. I sculpt a subtool, which is next to another one without using transparency, because when I sculpt the other sculptool, it's disturbing. Yeah. Without using transparency, no. Unfortunately, it loves to. No, when you have two objects close to each other, a lot of the brushes. I think the clay brush does okay. So if you have a cylinder here and make Polymesh 3D, you'll hit Control D a bunch of times, and then we'll say delete lower, and we'll Control drag this out. So, and you know what? We'll say split it. Yeah. So if I go through here and I'm like, okay, I want to sculpt on this one, and I don't want to. I want to just kind of sculpt through this one. If you go into solo mode. Your clay brush, so if I do my standard brush here, and then I go out of solo mode, I mean, it seems to be doing decent, but usually it'll kind of see a subtool there and do something weird. And that's where we go into, okay, transparency with ghost turned on, and now it'll just completely ignore it. So you can just literally go through here and just sculpt no problem. However, without transparency, you can go into solo mode, but then it disappears, so you can't really use it as reference. And like I said, it'll start behaving weird. I think the clay brushes or the clay type, base type clay brushes do better. So like clay buildup, I think. These brushes might do better, just kind of sculpting through without interacting. Incidentally, if you want to merge two together, really? Merge two things together. So you can Dynamesh these together and that'll sew them up, but as it is, these will stay separate objects. If you use the clay brush with two objects here, you can sometimes like blend without separating. You can kind of see it kind of blended those objects together. Of course, if you shift to smooth, it'll show you that seam line. FYI, if you for some reason you didn't want to, if you wanted to do a weird morph or something, you can kind of get away with a clay brush for that, but not a good answer, sorry, but yes. Yeah, some in October, man. The early days of October, late days of September, or something usually happens in Austin, like ragweed or something. But yeah. Can you edit the transparency and the ghost values? Yep, that's underneath. I want to say preferences draw. Preferences draw, transparency, depth, and stuff. All this right here will change the transparency settings. cool. Well, that's too bad. Let me see. I think I got my settings. Let's see. File, settings, video, 1920 by 1080, output, base scale, downscale filter, stream, output, high quality. I think I have it set up right. Sorry if I don't. That sucks. I'll upload this to my channel later, and it should be 1920 by 1080p. Another way to data, watertight mesh without dynameshing or remesh by union. You can dynamesh, and that'll do it. You can remesh by union, which is a Boolean operation. There's a weird one. I'll show you just real quick. So basically, if I want to make a watertight version of this, and I'm like, you know what, I don't want these holes, I just want a nice watertight mesh, you can go down here to remesh. X symmetry turned on is fine. Polish maybe down to 3. Resolution. Oh, remesh all. Well, you know what, we'll go ahead and append a sphere just so we can kind of play around with this. So you can do something like this and be like, okay, I want to remesh what I see. You can say remesh all. That'll put a skin down here, and it just remeshes the skin. It's kind of like a Dynamesh, but not really. It's just basically a projection from left, right, top, and bottom of just a skin that you can then go down here and say, you know, use your little tricks for project all or whatever, project history, just to kind of project, you know, let's do this, project. You may have to play with the project settings to get this to work. Remesh, where I'm at, project, distance, play around with this, or, you know, go into BZP, your Z project brush, turn off X symmetry, and then mirror and weld, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. But basically, you can use this skin, this remesh skin, to kind of do it. That's actually a little bit better for me than Dynamesh, because if you ever leave a little hole and your Dynamesh resolution is high enough, it'll want to go and do that. But remesh is usually pretty heavy-handed, but then you got to project your detail back. So maybe try remesh. I don't know if that's exactly what you're looking for, but yeah, that's exactly right. Is there a way to model everything? Yes, let's get started. We're going to model everything today. So we have this here. So we're going to do, let's do another ZRemesh half, keep groups. And again, I'm just kind of using this just to kind of give myself a little bit extra information just in case ZRemesh needs it. I'm going to try to get this as low as possible without losing my roundness on those things. I'm starting to lose it here, so I'll undo that. I think this is fine. So now if I want the exact same geometry on the front as I have on the back, which is sometimes useful for modeling purposes, I can again Control-Shift-click the red, Geometry Modify Topology, delete hidden, and then I can come back in here. A couple of different ways to do this, but we'll just hover over a face. Again, we'll extrude polygroup all. I'm going to pull out just a tiny bit, and then on the red side I'm going to hold down Shift here, and then now we can say, you know, crease PG, dynamic. Now we can do our like crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2, give ourselves a nice fall off, and then we have a little Jason Voorhees mask. Now we do need to put the buttons and the clasps on his head. So let's go ahead and, oops, I hit a button here. What button did I hit? I'm going to move these things around real quick. So we have a head here, and then we have all of this working mesh. We don't need these anymore. These are our Booleans. You can say this is a working file if you want. I don't think we'll need it, so we'll just say delete, append here. Now we have our mask, now we have our head, and now we need to put our straps in. A couple different ways to make straps. One easy way is, number one, I need a mesh with no subdivisions on it. What I like to have is just append like a little polymesh star, and I'm going to do the bent up arrow to shoot it to the top. Let's go into transparency mode, hit X to go into X symmetry, E or W to scale it down with Gizmo. Just kind of move this in no man's land there, and we'll go ahead and save this. So we'll go ahead and save this project as Voorhees 01. So what was I doing? Oh yeah, so, and this is also a name catcher, so I can just keep this off, and then I can change these as I deem fit. Now that I have an object that doesn't have subdivision history, I can go BTO. I could have used them helmet, but it's got dynamic on. I don't want to deal with that. So X symmetry still turned on. I can use this for a strap. He has straps here and here. I'm going to do this, but then I'm going to change my tactics. So we can go through here and we can just kind of put in a strap like so, just using topology brush. It gets a little weird down the middle. The topology brush does for me. But basically, you're just going to go through here and drag and get these little lines here. And then once you're happy with this, you can just tap. That'll extrude that poly as thickness. And we can just say split mask points to split it into its own subtool. And then if we want to, we can say crease tolerance. I'm going to change this crease tolerance up under geometry crease. And then just to smooth this out, because I got a little lumpy over the ear, we'll do a quick, like we did before, polish by features, and just tap that a couple times, and that'll kind of smooth this out. However, down the middle, it did crease. So we'll say, a Z modeler brush BZM. We'll just say crease edge loop complete. Hold down Alt to get rid of that. And then now we can say polish by features, and smooth that out. That's one way you can do it. Now, and then we need to, any adjustments you want to make, you can go through here. And even if you're kind of sloppy with your adjustments, again, just polish by features, and then I'll smooth it out a little bit. If we want to make it less thick, we can go through here and say, again, extrude or Q-mesh polygroup all. Just hold down Shift as you move those polygroup faces, and then you can kind of thin out the strap as needed here. And in fact, if we want to say, what's this going to look like smooth? Again, just D, which is what we did earlier, to go into dynamic. And in fact, we can say crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, give it a little bit of a fall off, and now we have a strap that we can kind of play around with. And it's dynamic, so if we need to make any geometry changes or whatever, or we didn't want to apply this smooth geometry, we can change it. In fact, I can hit this Alt to kind of snap this here, and then we'll kind of thin this out. So it's something like this, right? Yeah, maybe even a little thinner. He's got pretty thin straps. And then go through here, and we'll just pull this on a little bit more. But again, we have subdivisions off, so if we don't want to pull that forward, if you want to extrude forward, no problem. Just do Shift D, and then I can say extrude a single poly, and we just scooch this out. Control Alt drag and unmask this, and kind of maybe scoot it down a little bit. Actually, what might be better than this is just let's do Shift D, Control Alt to unmask this part, Alt tap here, Control drag to pull along that surface normal. Might be a little better. And then now we kind of mess up our creasing. That's okay. Just go in here to crease tolerance again. Just say uncrease all, crease. That'll get our creasing back. If you messed up your polygroups, no problem. Just do group by normals and then geometry modify topology mirrored weld. And then at this point, you could do crease PG. Now we're going to do a polish by feature, smooth that out a little bit, and we got this. Now, like I said before, we do have. And this is another thing too, just moving geometry around. Always again extrude a single poly and then just hold down Shift to pull along that surface normal. We do have buttons. So BI brush insert IMM clothing, hit M, and we have a little snap assembly. So here's the bottom snap assembly we want. I'm going to tap this one first. Let's hit Shift Z. We'll use our arrow keys to snap back where we want to, and it's going to be right here. I think it was at 15 or so. We can change this, it's not a huge deal. So I'm just going to hold down Control and snap this. If it's not right, you can just, again, just drag on the face. Okay, that's about right. Shift Z to turn this off. Make sure generally this is where it's supposed to go. If not, you can just kind of eyeball your reference and just kind of put it in here. Again, it's going to follow the surface normal. Now, it is part of this geometry. If you don't like that, split mask points. Next your subtool split menu. Let's go ahead and beef this up a little bit. Let's inflate this by like maybe a couple times. Hit D for dynamic. That'll turn on dynamic here. And now we've got a little button clasp on the face. If we want to, again, we can just scale this down. Now, if you start scaling it down now, it's going to want to go towards your world axis. Turn on LSIM. That'll be your local axis. And we can scale this down. Again, hit D. Inflate this one more time, maybe. Just a nice beefy button. That'll be the bottom snap. Okay, so another option for this top thing. Let's turn all these back on here, button snaps. Okay, so we have our side strap. So let's do another version. Now you could mask this out on his head and then ZRemesh it. You could use topology brush, or you can just go through here and just say append a cylinder Alt tap the cylinder. When you append a cylinder, it automatically sets it to Polymesh 3D, so you don't have to hit that button. And then we can literally just whoop, scale this down, turn on transparency, let it match his head vaguely. And then now you got, and again, let's turn on X symmetry. In fact, we could do a geometry modified topology mirror and weld across the X. And when I say that stuff out loud, that's what I'm talking about. It's tool, geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld. If you want more information, because I use my custom brush a lot on my YouTube channel, just type in custom, and there's like custom brushes, custom interface, custom menus, all that stuff. Or go into the intro to ZRemesh, new and updated, somewhere in here, like in video 40 or something. There's like, hey, blah blah blah, make your own custom stuff. It really speeds you up. Same thing on here. If you just want to go to the intro to ZRemesh, there's sometimes extra, not in this case, but sometimes extra goodies on there for whatever you might need. Okay, get caught up. Any reason you extrude instead of Q-mesh it? No, not really. And what we're doing here, it doesn't really make any difference. Let's go ahead and just do a group by normals here. And geometry modified topology mirror and weld. However, if I come up in a situation which we might, basically if you use Q-mesh, it'll be fine. It's basically an extrude. However, if you're Q-meshing something and it's kind of getting polygons close to each other, they'll stick together, and it's kind of a feature of Q-mesh, which is really cool. So to play it safe, if I don't need Q-mesh functionality, I'll switch to extrude instead of Q-mesh. Long story short. Actually, short story short. And if I miss something, just shout it back out again. I have a feeling I might be missing some of the conversation here. Use a base mesh, which already has a mouth open, mouth bag of all the things, but on the way you Dynamesh it, how do you cut another hole between the lips without Booleans? Well, I do have... Oops, I hate when I drag and it kills it. Mouth bag. So here's a couple different ways you can make, I mean, this one is a Boolean method for a mouth bag, but you can just sculpt it in if you want to. And then ZRemesh the head geometry, so. But when I did that, when I did the Dynamesh, I kept my original. So if I go back here to my head, I just Dynamesh it just to get that overall shape. And then now I have this version here, which does have the mouth bag already built in. Very useful. Cool. Thank you for the kind words, Cameron. Okay, so we got this, and then we got another, this one. Now, obviously, this is just a big cylinder in his head, so let's hold down Control-Shift, isolate just the... you know what? Let's do this first. So I'm going to turn on transparency. We're going to fit this cylinder to his head, and I'm going to say Control-Shift. We're going to grab the knife curve brush, and it goes over the front of the mask right about here. So we're just going to knife this back, and then it stops right about here. So we're just going to knife. Does it stop there? I can't really tell what's going on, but I'm just going to tuck it in. We won't see it that much. So now that I've knifed it, that's given us a new polygroup on those sides, and really all I'm looking for is the blue, right? So Control-Shift tap the blue, geometry modified topology, delete hidden, ZRemesh halved, upsize down to 0, and that'll just give us new geometry. Occasionally it'll do stuff like this. You can try going into like a geometry modified topology, weld points, you know, weld distance, and try to weld this stuff up. Sometimes even like hitting Control D can sometimes work, but in this case I can just bridge these real quick. If it's going to be a hassle, we can literally just go in here and say bridge edges and say, okay, you to you and you to you, and in fact we could even just say collapse edge. We just say collapse and then delete. Okay. Is it going to be a pain? Let's just do this then. Bridge edges, you to you. ZRemesh same. There we go. We will win. Okay, and then in through here, maybe I want to do maybe insert single edge loop, just every other one, just to simplify this a bit. I don't need. And if I was really thinking straight, I probably would have subdivided this to smooth it out before I ZRemesh, because ZRemesh will build in faceting. And then this one here, we'll just say delete loop. Okay, so now I've got a little strap, and we're going to say Q mesh. We'll do Q mesh this time. Polygroup all. And now if we pull in, you're going to see it's going to flip my normal. So we need to go into display properties, way down at the bottom. Display properties and flip. Okay, so we got our strap here, and again we'll just use our move brush, and we'll use our scale out a little bit. Turn off transparency, and then this little front flap here, we're just going to kind of pull this forward a little bit. Just like we were on the other one, we can just run a quick crease tolerance. 45 degrees is probably fine, and then at any point we could just go in here and run a polish by features, because a crease is a feature, and then a polygroup border is also a feature, so you can smooth out your straps using that pretty easily. And then we just got one more thing, going back to our Voorhees reference. There's buttons and then a little like a little bike, or sorry, like a little belt pull strap on here. So let's go ahead and put those in real quick. So we've already put in our button, and in fact they're not as pronounced. I was looking at the reference. So let's again turn on LSIM. I'm going to scale it non-uniformly in that direction. And then again, BI brush insert and just clothing M snap top half is all we really need. We don't need the whole assembly. Actually, it looks like it kind of folds in. Let's build that in. That's easy enough to build in. So this one here, I want this to basically loop around right here. So it's like going through a thicker piece of the mesh. So I'm going to go to the bottom here, hold down Alt and say, yeah, Q mesh polygroup all. Just hold down Control and pop out a copy of this and tap Alt just to give it a new polygroup, because that'll come in handy. And then we'll Q mesh this out. And then we want to loop these together, right? So Alt drag over these, and we'll say delete a single poly, and then hover over an edge. We'll say bridge, 2 holes. Then we're going to tap this edge and then tap this edge and pull. Up is resolution, left to right is distance. And honestly, I think that's probably fine. We need to reset. Let's hold down Control Shift, select lasso. I'm going to grab all these middle parts here, hit Control W, Control Shift drag, geometry modified to polygroups, auto groups, anything that's not vert welded will get its own polygroup. And then I'm just going to hold down Alt and paint those a different polygroup, just because it'll be easy enough for me to go crease PG. And then now I can hit D for dynamic. And, oh, I'm sorry, uncrease all and then crease PG, and then I'll go ahead and just kind of crease this. Let's go do a crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3. And now we can even go in here, kind of want to see if I can grab, let's go into move brush, auto masking, turn on topological, let's change that range down to like 1, and see if I can't, I can kind of push these together, or you just even inflate brush, I think. Is probably fine. You can mask along here, just hit W and Control drag, and you can kind of mask along this, but you know what? You might need to do this. Let's say bevel as it complete, just a little, not enough geometry there. And then hit D for dynamic again. Control Shift again, just grab auto groups, Control W. Sorry, I thought I could get away with that geo, and it was just bugging me just enough. Okay. Oh man. Yeah, that bevel didn't do me any favors. That's okay. Let's see if I can't just do a crease tolerance, because you won't see the inside. Higher crease tolerance. Higher. Yeah, it's going to be a pain. It's okay. You're not going to see it that much. Okay, and I can always smooth it out. So we've got the looped over geometry here, and again, it's just a dynamic preview. And then when we want to put a button on here, that would just be, again, BI, brush, insert, clothing, M, snap, assembly, top half. We want to make these all the same size. So looks like it does take up most of it. So I'm going to turn this down like maybe 22-ish. Here, and then we want to embed this a little bit more. So again, back in your depth, we'll switch that down to 0 or just pull that down. There we go. And then There we go. We're just holding down Control again. Control Shift tap these so they're on their own. That's weird. Control Shift A. This one has a bottom. These have the snap assemblies. Okay, the top half does include a little bit of extra hardware. That's okay. Control Shift A, we'll go ahead and say split hidden. And then, you know what, we'll do another loop for this one. Does it loop forward or backwards? It looks like it folds in. So again, we're gonna thin this one out just a bit. So Q mesh, polygroup all, just hold, as you're Q meshing, just hold down Shift to pull along that surface normal. And then let's go grab a little bit extra, Q mesh, hold down Control, and then tap Alt to give it a new polygroup. And then we'll Q mesh this out. If I accidentally had an extra thing over here, no problem. Just grab a little piece of it, Control Shift A, Control Shift drag, geometry modify topology, delete hidden. Q mesh, hold down Alt, delete, single poly, bridge, 2 holes, U to U here, and we'll build in a little bit more geometry this time. Control Shift, lasso, that's going to grab all of these pieces, Control W, auto groups here, and then again, Alt, and then tap Alt, we'll give it a new polygroup here. And I'm just going to do a quick mirror weld just in case. And then D for dynamic, uncrease all, crease PG. Crease level of 2, smooth side depth of 3. Maybe run a little bit of an inflate along here, move that around however you'd like. And now we've got our Jason Voorhees mask. We can breathe a little bit more life into this. Oh, we do have that. We got one more thing we can steal. IMM clothing, M buckle. Shoot this right up here. Split mask points. W, we'll move this into place. And if we want this to kind of follow the geometry, we can. In fact, we can say, you know what, let's slide this edge loop back just a bit. And then maybe we want to think. We want this to kind of bubble out and then cut back in. So we can say, you know what, let's transpose edge loop complete here. Control, oh, it already did that for me. Sorry. Transpose, it'll automatically mask for us. And even in here, we can say, you know what, let's bevel this a little bit. And then maybe we want to transpose an edge poly loop. So we can go this way instead. And now we can kind of, let's reset this. Kind of bubble this out a little bit like so. If you wanted to punch a hole through here, you could. It's the same geometry on both sides, so you could go in here and say like split point on this side and then split a point on this side and then Q mesh, just do polygroup island, pull that through. If it'll snap, boop, there we go. And then again, crease PG. That's gonna crease that one. You can hold down Alt and then Shift to paint a pre-existing polygroup here. Oops. Here, and now we can just do a crease PG dynamic. Sorry, this is getting boring, but anyway, that's one way you could go about doing that here. Not that that makes a huge bit of difference. And then we can just, you know what, also, you know, all the fancy transposing and Z-modeler stuff, just go in there with your move brush. It's fine. Move, let's turn off topological. There is a topological move brush, by the way. Actually, let's move this in. You can also use your sculpting brushes. So we'll tell them on Alt. Okay. Pretty good, pretty good. Let's go through here. Let's a little bit more room for the eye. Here. And, okay. Let's go back to our thing here. Add the block list. Boom. Okay. Getting caught up. Sci-fi girl you did years ago. Cool to see maybe new character creature, something sci-fi hard surface elements. Yeah, if you want, in fact, I can, let's see, streaming. If anybody's wondering where that is, it's on the Pavlovich Workshop, which we're doing right now. If you go all the way to the bottom, of the Pavlovich workshop, there's a little sci-fi female here, so I'll link you to that here. And now that I just looked at that, thank you. They don't have all my videos in here. If you ever need to see them, I don't know if you can go to videos here. Some of them didn't make it into my playlist. However, on my channel, there's a big blue genie created playlist. Huge blue genie down here, and this will have got everything I've done. My channel and their channel, Pixelogic's channel. So I'll copy you that if you want to dig back through the archives. Now, caveat, having said that, if you go down to the bottom of this one, it doesn't have the sci-fi girl. That's only on Pixelogic's. That was back before I was recording. So, cool. Thank you for the kind words. Good morning, Steamworks. First, we'll ask you, when you plan your next live tutorial, how to make realistic character or something like that. Realistic characters. I'm trying to think if I had. I don't really have. I kind of have. This guy was he wasn't that realistic, but it's realistic enough, I guess. I do have. God, is that on my Twitter? I think we did something silly and MetaHuman. Hey, Ian, give him a like. Yeah, we did something kind of weird in MetaHuman. You can transfer sculpts in the MetaHuman. There we go. I don't know. That's a process you can do. You know what? I didn't record a video about this, so I'll do that maybe today. It's a really simple process to throw things in MetaHuman. You're not sculpting it, but I use 1024 scan data and displacement maps to do like the realistic stuff, generally speaking. So yeah, maybe one day. Maybe we'll do a little bit of realism here. Cool. Nice. Glad you could join us, Mini Chicks. So I have the Zenny Labs Wacom tablet you recommended, but I found when I try to make a stroke or select okay when confirming, there's always a slight lag. I don't seem to have that. I'm trying to think what it could be. When I'm really I hate lag. Obviously, like if I'm in ZRemesh, you know, I move around fast, so if there's any hesitation or sense of lag, I get incensed. But I seem to be doing okay. I'm not sure exactly what that would be. Default properties are meant to change at the start. I don't think so. Let me see. Let me see if I have any weird preferences. Pin. 3-button pins what we're using. Right middle click, right click, disable. Pin pressure. I think I'm just all vanilla. Wish I had a... Yeah, and my global is probably the same as my ZBrush. I'm not sure exactly what that could be. Sorry about that. Yeah, okay. I'll record that today. Okay, so we have this. We got a lumpy guy back here. Let's go ahead and finish this one out. We'll move on to the next one. So let's do a little bit of painting. Normally I would throw this into like Substance Painter and go ahead and just, you know, bake this off and do a really nice grungy pass. But since we're in ZBrush, we'll just do this real quick. So I'm going to Alt tap this here. This is all dynamic subdivision geometry. So if I go out of project here, so geometry, dynamic, you see dynamic is on. I can do Shift D to turn it off, D to turn it back on, and that was weird. Shift D. Huh, that's fine. So D to turn it back on, and this is the result we're going to get. However, if I want to paint on this, it's going to be pretty low resolution because, again, it's just a dynamic preview of what the geometry could look like. This is actually what we're painting on. So if you want a high-res geometry to paint on, because in ZBrush it's poly painting, which we can transfer to UVs. In fact, let's show that real quick. For example, we can go in here to Z plugin, and we can say UV master. We can say symmetry, poly groups. Let's go ahead and say work on clone just to play it safe. That'll pop it out in its own subtool. So we have all of these poly groups can be their own. And in fact, let's hold down Control Shift with this select lasso, I don't know if you're noticing when I was doing it with the straps, if you hold down Control Shift and select an edge ring, it'll just select an edge ring really quickly. And then I'm going to hit Control W to make this its own polygroup. Control Shift, we'll grab this part here, we'll say Control W to make that its own polygroup. So I'm basically splitting this thing up into UV shells. Now if I go in here and say unwrap and then flatten, give it a second. There we go. Now we've got UVs, no overlapping UVs. We're good to go. So we'll say unflatten. We're going to copy these UVs. We're going to go back to our working mesh here. We'll say paste UVs. If we want to check it, we can go down here to texture map, create new from UV check. And there we go. If we have polyframe turned off, that'll get rid of the lines. There we go. So now no overlapping UVs, just gray. So we're in good shape. So we do know our UVs are working. We'll turn that texture off. Now we have Polypaint. So I'm going to hit Control D to subdivide up, and maybe Control D, to 1.6 million or something. We'll do Shift Z. That'll give us guides for where we want the stuff to go. In fact, we can actually paint through here. So we've already done it. So BPA. Again, one caveat underneath brush. We'll go ahead and turn our Z plugin menu out. Make sure under samples you do have spotlight projection turned on, and then you can go through here and you can literally just paint where stuff needs to go. If I want to sample a color, I can just hit C and that'll sample that color. I can do Control Alt F, which is my hotkey for color fill object. We can just fill this with a solid color, and in fact what I might do is fill it with kind of a desaturated grunge color. So now when I go through here and I want to kind of let's try to apply Boolean. I always do this anyway. Standard brush with Z add off and RGB on. I don't know why. Use your BPA brush, paintbrush if you want. So now I can go through here. I can turn my RGB intensity down. I can even go in here and maybe put on a brush alpha, or we could clone that. Heck with it. Go in here to alpha, modify. Let's turn up some streaks. A little intensity on those streaks, maybe a little strength, density. There we go. And so now when I paint, it'll kind of give it a little bit of a painterly look. So now as I'm going through here, I'm going to kind of just start painting this up a little bit, kind of a yellowish undertone here. And it'll kind of look a little bit more worn and scratchy. Again, probably if I'm doing this for real, I would bake it off and do all this in Substance Painter, but I think we can get something passable. In fact, hold down Shift and let's turn on Colorize for everything, so we can just kind of colorize this on its own, like so. And in fact, I think we do even have displacement color maps we can pull in onto this head on this computer, which is always useful. I'm going to go here, maybe cool this off a little bit here, desaturate, and then again we're just kind of building up to the white areas here, just kind of. And then if I want to paint where the red is, and we'll go crisscross this way. So this will kind of give us like a little, you can also, besides alphas, you can throw in anything, I think, any kind of alpha, and it'll also do the streaky stuff that we already have plugged in. So if you want to get extra scratchy, you can. Again, just go through and change your opacity. There's even blend mode. So if you go down here to brush properties, alpha and texture, nope. Is it alpha and texture? Oh yeah, Polypaint mode. So you can change this to standard, colorize, multiply, lighten, darken. You can play around with those. And again, if you need to sample something, just tap C on your keyboard and that'll go ahead and sample the color that's underneath. So what do we want? Maybe this one. So we've got our creepy little thing, and then now let's go in like a dark brown. Let's turn off X symmetry, so we can go through here and oops, turn off X symmetry. Just from the movie here, maybe he's got some real red. Oh, you know what? He's also got a chunk. Does he have a chunk taken out in some of these? Some of the reference, he has like a little chunk taken out here. We'll ignore that for now. Again, just kind of little grungy spots on here. Now, for the red, let's do Shift Z. We'll put this back in here. And instead of painting from here, because it's going to mess with my paint, I'm going to turn X symmetry back on. We're going to hold down Control, and we're just going to mask kind of where this goes and kind of where this goes, just as a quick indication, using our reference, and then Shift Z to turn this off, and we'll double check to make sure it's going towards the inside of the eye, just in a little triangle. If you hold down Control Alt and tap, that'll sharpen our mask, which is useful. And then Control Alt here, and then Control Alt here. There we go, nice and sharp. And again, we're just using masking, so we can just do a color fill in just a second. And then this is going to go towards the button, and then just kind of cap here. Sorry, kind of the boring part of doing stuff. So Control Alt Tab again to sharpen the mask. There is, if you go down here to masking, there is a sharpen mask and blur mask here, but essentially you Control Tap to blur, Control Alt Tap to sharpen. But we'll go ahead and keep our sharp corners that we had. Here, you could also use Control Mask Curve. You can pull in a mask and then hold down Alt, and that'll unmask this area, and then you can like slice masks through here. But well, blur that out just, but there we go. Good enough. So now I'm going to invert this. We're going to grab just kind of a nice ruddy red. And in fact, if we want to see this, we can turn off View Mask. It's still there, but that way we can see before we commit. Maybe we want to make this a little darker. Slightly more orangey. A little more saturated. And after doing all of this, let's go ahead and you can just clear your mask here. Control drag. You can go in here. It's a Polypaint, but you can go in here to Polypaint, adjust colors, and you can change, you know, the hue if you want, or the RGB intensity if you want to kind of crank that up a little bit, contrast, all that stuff. So feel free. And then for these are kind of, I wonder, we could UV these, but I think we can get away with. In fact, let's go ahead and merge these all into one subtool. I'm going to bend arrow this down so it's just above this one. I'm going to do Control E, and that'll kind of, which is my hotkey for merge down, which for you would be under the merge menu here. And then with this one selected, you know what, we could just fill this with like a dark gray, D for dynamic, and then just for a little bit of flavor, let's go into surface. Let's go to the front here, surface, noise, noise plug, and we'll do weave, and we'll zoom in a little bit so we can see. We're going to say mix basic noise down to 0. Color blend 0. I don't want any color blend. And then we're going to go to strength down a bit, and then plug-in scale. Scale this down. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but I'm going to do, again, strength. Let's do strength up a little bit. Plug-in scale. I'm seeing if I can get away with it without doing UVs on these, and I think I can. It kind of stretches on the side. Okay, fine. No UVs on these yet, but that's okay. We can just very quickly go in here to Z plugin. Again, you're not really going to see it, but we're already talking about it. Work on clone, symmetry polygroups, just hit unwrap, flatten. If you want these all match, you can hit W, control tap this polygroup, turn off X symmetry, hold down shift, and we can just have it go this way. Good enough. Say unflatten, copy UVs, go back to our working. We will paste those UVs, and now when I go back into my surface noise, edit, we're going to say use UVs. So that way they'll be a little bit nicer. And you know what, let's crank up that strength. There we go. Little bit of texture on there for you. We can paint those metal, and in fact I do have If I alt tap this head, because we started out with the base mesh head, there's some displacement maps I can pull in. You know what? I can just see if that'll work. Let's go in here to texture, import. Is that under my scan models? Displacement maps, male 01. Maps color. Texture, select it, flip vertical, and I'm just going to drop this color map on here. Yeah, it'll work. And you can maybe even steal some eyeballs from another map. That's fine. Yeah, now we probably should. Give me a sec. Because we could use this on other scan models. Retope fax neutral. Z tool. I think these will be lined up. If not, I can scoot them around. This is a big one, so give me a second here. We're going to steal. So here's the cool thing. So these teeth and tongue, first of all, I don't need this much resolution. So if we go up here to like subdivision level 6, it's like how many million? 9 million. I don't need that much. 5, delete higher is fine. Same thing with the tongue. I can go up here and say 3 million is fine. And then the eyeballs, there's eye left and eye right. This one should be nice and low. Okay, cool. So eyeball left and right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these eyeballs, I'm going to shove them into the teeth. And then with this folder selected, I'm going to go in here to Z plugin, Subtool Master, copy folder. Go back to our working file. I'm going to say Z plugin, Subtool Master, paste folder. There we go. Oh, that's creepy as hell. And then we're going to go back here. We don't need anything else. So we're going to say delete all. And then we just need to do a little bit of, I kind of like it. We're going to go over here to teeth and we're going to say transpose set. So everything in here will kind of be part of this mesh here. Gosh. And now let's go ahead and move multiple, because basically transpose set just does move multiple. I'm going to alt tap this eyeball here. I'm just going to manually kind of wiggle these things into place here. And in fact, if we want to merge these eyeballs down, I can take this one. Make sure you go into UV, turn that on, so when I merge these eyeballs together, it'll maintain their UVs. Do a quick geometry modified topology mirror and weld with LSIM turned off, so they're both the same on both sides. W, unmesh mesh center. Okay, and let's scoot these out a little bit. Yoink. Now, the displacement map, we could do that. We didn't really do a ton of work on this face, obviously. Is there any more lumpy or bumpies? Yeah, let's do it. Also, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to turn off colorize. I'm going to turn off our texture map. And we're going to go back here to startup material. So while we're, subdivision level 3, make sure, yeah, clay buildup is a good one to kind of go through here, and we can hold down shift to smooth, and then clay buildup to build up, and then maybe dam standard 02 again to kind of cut in geometry. I don't know there's probably some weirder stuff going on with his nose, and you're not going to really see his mouth here, but essentially this is what I would be using. You can hold Damien standard, hold down alt, you can kind of pull out to an edge here for the lip, all that stuff, whatever you want to kind of model in. Clay buildup on the little ear, little tragus and anti-tragus. And around here, blah, 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 blah. And then in Damien Standard or Dam Standard 02, Dam Standard 02 you'll have to look up on the internet. Damien Standard should just be under your D brushes here. And again, he's got kind of a lumpy head, so I'm going to smooth this out a little bit. So we're just kind of getting some weirdo volumes kind of dialed in, like his ear over here and his lumpy head and his, I don't know, he's just generally kind of a lumpy dude.
And then if we want to add hyper detail to this, I think I should be able to do it relatively easily, and then control it possibly. Okay, so let's say Control D, sort of to like 3 million. Let's do Control D one more time. Yeah, 12 million is fine. I'm gonna go back down here. Let's go into texture, import, displacement maps, Mela1 displacement maps, color displacement. And then grab it, and we gotta flip it. And then once that's done, give it a sec because it's a big old map. If I was doing this for real, I would subdivide one more time into like the 30s of millions. And let's get some coffee. Speaking of, so this is a 1024 multi-expression pack. Let's see if this is back up. Multi-expression base mesh from the 3D scan store is what I'm using. Still down, but there's tutorials on there with that base mesh that go into all the stuff I'm doing, only much better. We're still waiting for that to flip. Oh no, wait. Okay. And again, so we have our texture map here. I'm going to leave that alone for now. We're going to go into our displacement map. I'm going to load up. Oh, stupid. I don't want it in texture. I want it in alpha import. Flip vertically. And if you're bringing in huge maps into ZBrush, I would recommend going over here to these palettes and turning those off, because that'll definitely make things hitch a little bit. Okay, I'll get caught up. Thank you, John Yu, for stopping by. Man, that Nightbot is just all over the place. Expeditors, hey, cool. Okay, got another bot. There we go. Okay. Okay, so we got this. I'm going to turn these off over in the palette, but over here in the displacement map, we need to, I'm going to create, we do. We need a texture map in here, and then for the displacement, selected, let this save. Let's go to a skin shader for so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, so this is just a preview of the displacement map. So it's just like your surface noise is a preview displacement. That's all this is as well. So there's the displacement map. It hasn't been applied to the geometry yet. Before I would do that, you could do a morph target to kind of brush in and out. You can also go in here or go in here to layers, and you can add a displacement map layer on here. I think I'm just going to stick with, like, let's do 0.001. 0.005, just to kind of get that detail indicated on here. And then let's see, eyes. Yeah, so now all of these still work. We haven't applied our displacement map, but I don't know that I'm going to do that just yet. Let's put 0 back in here. So let's see if we have a cool face we can pull. Snarl. Here's our little snarly Jason Voorhees here. Let's put this back to 0. Let's do anger pain. That fits well with our, and we can turn on our just move his teeth back just a little bit, his teeth and tongue. Teeth, W, we'll scooch this back just a bit. Eyeballs are in there. Yeah, okay. So we've got our weird lumpy guy. And let's go in here to material, modifiers. We have the skin shader selected. We'll do diffuse all the way up to 1.
And for the expression, we can just put him back down to neutral. So actually, let's do a little bit. Eyes tight. You know what? Also another thing we can do. We don't need all of that detail. I think that, you know, we'll say subdivision level 5. This will make us run a little bit faster. Bring those eyes in just a little bit. So we got our Jason mask. Just for these here real quickly, we'll just throw a, you don't necessarily need to do this in ZBrush, but why not? What's a good metal? Maybe this metal here. MA8 shiny. So MRGB, color, fill object, and then alt tap this one. Color, fill object. So now when I go back to Skin Shader 4 for the head, we'll turn on perspective, turn on our floor. Let's go in here to render, BPR filters, render properties, BPR shadow. I like to do a little bit of an angle on the shadow, and then maybe a little bit more raise, and then maybe grab the light and we'll scoot it over here to the left. We'll be on the shadow side. BPR, and that'll go ahead and render. Okay, I'll get caught up over here. Hey, thanks for joining us, Jesur. Find a way to create emissive maps in ZBrush. In ZBrush, there's a way you can fake it. In you know, that's actually a Ask ZBrush question. Glow effects. It's a fake filter type way to do it, but you can do it. It won't be accurate. It won't be bouncing any photons around, but might be good enough. Oh, definitely pin tablet for everything. Even when I'm in Maya, it's pin tablet. It comes to layers, like, do you get glitches or issues when using layers? Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah, I do sometimes, actually. But there you go. We got a little Jason Voorhees here. I think we got enough time to maybe do, we were going to do the Mike Meyers, so we can, let's do this. Let's save this first. Save as. Voorhees 02. And let's real quickly, let's see if we can't do a quick Meyers. So we're going to say open. And just so I don't accidentally save over something, I've been known to do stupider stuff than this. I'm going to save this one as Meyers 01. So Michael Meyers, everybody's favorite William Shatner mask. So nice defined cheekbones, little scraggly hair, and maybe a collar we'll throw on. In fact, shirt. Yeah, I don't know if I ever. Let me see. Let me see if I can just do something real quick. Import. We're on steel and upper body shirt on here. And you know what? Alpha. Let's go ahead and say we were doing some crazy alpha stuff with this, so we'll say strength. Yeah, I can steal some of this. Let's go in here and say, actually, he would have been a good head to start with. Control Shift Alt and I'm just looking for like a bust here. Delete hidden, go in here, append here, and then if these things are, you know, I mean they're actually really close. They must be both centimeter scale. But you can also just go in here, deformation unify, down here for y'all, and that'll just kind of match ZBrush's base unit scale. And I'm just going to quickly just kind of Dynamesh this. That'll close the holes for me. Geometry modify topology mirror and weld. Good enough. X symmetry turned on. Shift. I'm going to go into smooth with Sculptors Pro turned on, just to kind of really chew away some of this here. And you know what? Dynamesh even a little bit lower. Clay buildup. All right, so there's some semblance of cloth on here. I'm going to say Z intensity all the way back up for my thing here. So we got a little bit of cloth. And we're also going to go in here and we're going to say, since this is Michael Myers, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this, and we don't need this or this. And we're really not going to see his head, but what we can do is let's go down to sort of level 1. I'm going to turn off the displacement map and the texture map, and I'm going to just oh, whoops. Okay, back to a semi-normal head here. So now, just like we did with the mask here, I'm going to duplicate this off, this head, and I'm going to say, say sort of level 3, delete higher, delete lower. So this is just geometry sitting here, and I'm going to kind of, the mouth is sewn shut, or not sewn shut, that's a little more morbid than I meant. Basically, it's just a mask, right? And there's no mouth hole that I can see, it's just like a face. So I'm just going to use this as my starting point. So we're going to go right in here and we're going to say Dynamesh. We have X symmetry turned on. Oh, if we are Dynameshing something, make sure in this case we need to say bake all on our layers, and then it'll let us Dynamesh. And now when we Dynamesh, lips are sewn shut. And then now we just need to bring in, let me grab a straight on face view. That's a good one. Okay, I'm just going to grab this one and bring it in. Ah, WebP, why are you the bane of my existence? You know what? Fine. I'm just going to snag this one. Share. There we go. Texture, import, desktop, an image, texture, grab it, add it to our spotlight. We don't need this one anymore, so I'm just going to delete it out of our scene. Again, those pure blacks are going transparent. Just go in here to intensity, drag that to the right, change this however you'd like, and that's going to be basically what we'll match. So here we got the head essentially placed. And we're going to kind of mess around with some of these proportions. X symmetry turned on, and we're going to move the eyes up, and the nose and the mouth around. And again, it's going to be kind of like a loose, kind of floppy mask, which I think is why, you know, like the neck and the ears are really kind of intensely broad, and the face is kind of saggy a little bit. Which is totally fine. And then through here is where the hair is going to be. And then the eye holes are going to be a little bit bigger than just your normal eye holes. Something like this. Hold down Shift to smooth. So there's kind of that saggy nondescript face, and it does cut across the neck. Oops. So I'm gonna scooch this out a little bit and smooth this all up.
And we may have to jump into some fiber mesh here. So right across the neck here, Control Shift, we'll go in here to slice. Let's hit Control W to make this all one polygroup. And then right along the neck here, Control Shift Tap, Geometry Modified Topology, delete hidden. You can also do Geometry Modified Topology, close holes. I like to work with closed meshes while I'm just kind of getting stuff done. And then he does have kind of a droopy, sad eye kind of look here. And then standard brush. Oops, Z add turned on. Maybe turn that the intensity down just a bit. Okay, so we've got this upper eyelid, and all of this will be carved out too, but we'll go ahead and leave that solid just for now. And then we've got the lower eyelid. This looks a little more, he doesn't have like big eye bags. This looks a little more filled out. This looks a little more pronounced. And then those cheekbones, man. So we're gonna go in here and labial folds right here. Kind of pronounce those a little bit more. And then he's got this line here, maybe Control B. And in fact, we're just working with, you can drop your Z intensity or your Dynamesh resolution down. This looks like it's all one piece through here. And then the very nice, almost friendly lips through here. Not much of a bottom lip to speak of, but a heck of an upper lip. Something like that. We're just using Damien's standard, holding down Alt. And then we'll go in with our clay brush or our clay buildup brush. And we'll kind of carve this in just a little bit with our standard brush. Move brush. And then underneath here, it's got kind of that node at the corner of the mouth a little bit, and then underneath a little bit, and then this kind of jowl kind of look too a little bit. So we're just using clay buildup and just kind of going across the surface like this just to kind of build this in, and then we'll follow back up with just a little bit of smooth brush. And it seems like there's kind of some weird wrinkles too. So whenever we're cutting in, again, it's Damien's standard or Dam standard 02. And then kind of looks like it kind of cuts across in a weird way. Just like a slight. And then a little bit of the brow. Kind of cuts across here. A little bit of that. And then a little bit of clay buildup here. And again, maybe Dam Standard 02, big brush size just to kind of. And if I'm ever pulling out to a point, which is kind of like if I want to just kind of pull out to a point like this, Move Acu is a brush I have, and it's going to be brush curve, Acu curve turned on your move brush, and that'll allow you to pull to points. And then you can also use this in conjunction with topological, change this down to like 1.5. And that way I can try and thicken this upper lip up without disturbing that lower lip too much. And this is more of just a flat. Okay. Pretty much everything's volumed in, give or take. Maybe we'll go in here and just kind of knock this back just a bit. And a lot of this is going to be to taste too, you know, kind of go through and let's put a little bit more of a You can even use pinch if you want to, kind of put surfaces a little bit closer together, a little more draft to the face. We'll exaggerate this a little bit more. Just dig in, build back up, smooth out just a bit. And there's another one here. Got really cake that makeup on. So this kind of, again, just a really pronounced cheek right here. It's kind of iconic. Sorry, this is kind of the super boring part. We're going to fill this in a little bit too. Just kind of matching here, and then a little filtrum through here. How's that nose feeling? And again, I think this was based on the William Shatner mask back in the 70s, I guess. Let's go ahead, and with our trim dynamic, we could just put a plane along some of these. Flatten them out, make a little more manufactured looking, not super natural. Not that he's looking that naturalistic, but you know what I mean. Okay. The ears are also not naturalistic, you know, they're kind of just shapes, you know, kind of what you expect from a cheap Halloween mask. So no nuance. So we'll lean into that a little bit. We'll just kind of smooth that out. This can kind of pull up here, and now we have essentially some sort of Michael Myers mask. So let's turn this into an actual mask. So we have surface details that we want to maintain, right? And then we'll put hair on it. And when we Dynamesh this, it filled this hole down at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Control-Shift-Tap the purple, just to get rid of that one. Geometry Modified Topology, delete hidden. We'll cut in right about here. So I'm just going to hold down Control, oops, switch back to Mask Pin, and we're going to cut in our mask eye holes. So right along here. And we're on a lower resolution Dynamesh, and when that's helpful is instead of just hitting Control W and getting that aliased result, let's hold down Control Alt and sharpen this up a little bit. Again, we'll go back into like we did earlier and do Edge Loop Mask Border, and that'll slice through your polygroup here. So Control-Shift-Tap, delete hidden. We want to save these vert positions, so I'm going to hold down Control and Tap on the latest point in history just to store these vert positions in history. And then I'm going to go through here. We're going to say ZRemesh, yeah, half, adapt size down to 0. And I'm going to ZRemesh this, get some thickness, and then we'll project our details back. This isn't totally necessary. You can just scoop the eyes back, and you can close off the neck hole. It makes it a lot easier to work with. You don't have to worry about thin meshes and stuff. But since it's a mask, I figure we'll do it right. So now we have these points sitting here, and I want to snap them to those points we stored with all the detail. That's going to be under Project History. Just hit no, and then that's also under here, Project History. So we're projecting to history, points we have stored in history. Let's do ZRemesh half again. And we're going from 67,000 down to 30. We'll say Project History. And then, you know, let's keep pressing our luck, ZRemesh half. Project History. And the right reason I'm projecting history is just to get the verts back out to where they should be. You know, let's do one more. ZRemesh half. Perfect. Project history. That's as low as I need to go. So we have detail we want to bring back, but I have brand new geometry. Again, this is a mask. So here's a good example. So QMesh, if I do polygroup all on QMesh, and I pull this back in, what it'll do, what QMesh will tend to do, is start like snapping to other areas that are close. It'll just kind of like snap verts together. So in this instance, I may go in here and do an extrude instead, polygroup all, and we'll just extrude this back. So now we have some thickness to this. Again, we're flipping our vert, our normal, so we're going to go to our display properties, flip, and Now we can do a crease PG, crease level of 2, smooth side of 3, and it's kind of a mask, right? But we lost all our detail. That's okay. So let's do Shift D to get out of dynamic. We did crease our polygroup border, so when I hit Control D, it'll maintain those creases on the eyeballs, and then I'll hold down Control Shift and isolate just the red. And we're going to do Project History. Control Shift Tab to bring everything else back. Control D, isolate just the red, Project History. Bring everything else back. Control D, isolate the red, project history. And now we've got our details back and brand new geometry. We could even probably do one more. There we go. And so now we can, if the transitions between the geometry is a little much, we can go through here and we can smooth those out. We have brand new geometry underneath here. So if you need to go through, now you have nice quad meshes, you can go through and you can UV it a lot easier because we have subdivision history now. So here's subdivision level 1 all the way up to 5. We have mask thickness through here. Go out of solo mode here. And I should have inflated our base head before I did this so I wouldn't have to go through and fight this, but it's not a big deal. We can just uniformly scale up a bit. I don't want to move the mask too much. Bring this jaw on a little bit. And again, since we have subdivision level history, if you want to go through and say, subdivision level 1 or move around fewer verts, totally doable. I'm going to demasculine this brow ridge just a bit. He was a little bit hyper there. Now this one does have, you know what, I think we do. Hold on just a second. Damn. I have an eyebrow pack, but I don't think I have it on this computer. Brush. Update ZBrush IMM. Oh, I don't think I have my eyebrow pack on this computer. Damn. I need to remember to bring that over. But basically I can just drag out some eyebrows. But in this case, since it's not like realistic or anything, it's literally just like a strip. So we do Shift Z here. And again, we'll match this camera angle a little bit better. And we'll bring in that slight smile a little bit more. Smooth this out just a bit. Give it a sec. Clay buildup, clay buildup. We got this wrinkly little thing here. And then again, here is our eyebrow. Again, just like a strip for the eyebrow. And then for the hair, it did look pretty frazzly, right? So let's hold down Control. I'm just going to kind of mask where this hair is. Shatner hair here, and then over the ear. And then back around here, it looks like. I don't know that, yeah, he's got a pretty pronounced skull. That's okay, we can move the hair around. So we'll go through here. And I'm going to,
hold down Control Alt and tap. So we've got basically where I want our hair to go. And then we're going to go in here to Fibermesh Preview. Not terrible. Let's go in here to modifiers. I'm going to take, just so we can see a little bit better, white for the base, white for the tip. Gravity, I'm going to have it just kind of stick straight out, so we'll do gravity to 0. Twist to 0 as well. And then length, we'll crank that up a bit. Let's see, match fibers. Hold on, let me get rid of this. He's got quite a bit of fibers. His hair is kind of all over the place, so we'll comb it, generally speaking, and we'll clump it together too. So something like this could be a good enough start. Segments, we're going to crank that up maybe to 11, so we have more to play with here. And I'm going to say accept. We'll say no. We can just groom whatever we have here. Now, I didn't do any poly groups, but we'll just go ahead and do those manually. So let's go in here to BG, brush, groom, hair toss, and then for all of these, let's go over to our Fibermesh and say front collision tolerance. We'll change that down to a lower number, so it's a little bit, it'll kind of go closer to the head. And we can go through here and we can kind of just style this. And again, luckily, he's kind of got, I'll show you here, he's kind of just frazzled, so that might work in our favor. Make it a little bit easier. So we'll go through here and we'll just kind of generally give it a direction to kind of go in. And if your computer's hanging or something, you can go back down here to Fibermesh and you can say preview settings and turn on fast preview. That'll just give you fewer, you can like drop in the preview here, so you can like go way down if there's just too many. If there's too many, you can make it less. Okay, so here's this. And Fibermesh for me, notoriously difficult to wrangle, but I think we'll get there. And I'm gonna hold down Shift. If we want to make anything shorter, we can just hold down Shift, and that'll smooth it back along its length here. And then if I want to clump any of these, so if we turn on polyframe, let's go ahead and turn off line here. Oh, it looks like we do have, that's weird. Let's hit Control W, make it all one polygroup. I can hold down Control with mask pin. Let's also, we have a point stored in history. We don't need those points anymore for detail, so I'm gonna hold down Control and just tap twice on the latest. And I'll get rid of those. So I can go through here and just Control drag over, and then if we want to, we can hit Control W to make that its own polygroup. We can isolate. Isolate this, brush. Let's just do this. Let's just go grab our pinch brush and we'll just kind of clump. There is a clump brush groom, BG, groom, turbulent, twister, spike, knot, hairball. You can kind of clump, or groom clumps you can kind of use. It's not too terrible. And then again, you can just hit Control W, make it all one polygroup if you want. But while these are separated out, you can use anything. And by default, if I go into like my move brush, I want to say auto masking, Fibermesh is always on. That just means it's going to mask the root so you don't move it. That's what this little curve indicates, is no moving, full moving. However, you may need to go into Fibermesh preserve length, and that way when you're using your move brush, it won't allow you to, if that's down to 0, you can like whoop, do this. So just do preserve length, and yeah, let's go through here and we can kind of just move hair around. So anyway, there's that. This kid's kind of frazzled, so let's go into our broom. Let's just throw some turbulence in there, just to kind of, not that much. Just little taps to indicate, yeah, just a little bit of waviness in here. Break up a little bit. And then again, feel free to go nuts. Let me see if there's just like a brush groom. Lengthen hair toss. Twister, blower might be good for his. This kind of blows. Let's turn off polyframe here.
And again, this is just a preview. So if you want to get the full rendered effect, you can go through here and you can hit BPR. And in fact, there's BPR settings in here that'll smooth this out and give it thickness, since we're kind of just working on 2D curves, give or take. Okay, so there's that. And you know what? Just for this one here, we can, and you can paint this just like you can anything else in ZBrush. So you can say Control-Alt-F is our, let's go back to Skin Shader 4. Oh yeah, I moved the light around. That's like, why does it look so weird? And then for the expression here, we'll go ahead and turn back on our texture map and our displacement map. And we'll just fill this with a blue. Dark blue. And he does kind of, he's got kind of a work collar thing here, so we can go ahead and let's take this mask, let's go down to subdivision level 1. We'll move this up and in just a bit, just so it's a little bit higher. I should have checked that with this close here. And then we'll pull this down just a bit into a V. And what's a quick way to make a collar? Let's do BTO, topology brush. I'm gonna go along here and we'll just match it back to the back here maybe. We'll go down. Actually, this is gonna go out and up and then back around. That's fine. Here. And then match it up. Match U to U, drag through. We'll clean this up in just a second. Up and down. Nope, not gonna cooperate. Could also just use, you know, we can just bridge that. That's fine. Deleted. So tap off. Just to get some geometry, we'll say split mask points. We'll say Q extrude polygroup all or Q mesh polygroup all, doesn't really matter here. And then we can just say bridge to polys, U to U, geometry modify topology, mirror and weld. There's kind of a collar. And let's say we want to loop this around to the underside. So you know what, let's just do really quickly a group by normals, crank that max angle up just a little bit. That's under your polygroup menu, geometry modify topology, mirror and weld. So it's the same on both sides. X symmetry is turned on. And I'm going to say Q mesh polygroup all, hold down control, tap alt, give it a new polygroup. So this would be like an inside of the collar. And then we can just bridge those over. That's gonna be, It's been a while since I've done a collar. Insert single edge loop. I'm just gonna pull in an edge loop here. And, you know, I may be overthinking this. Let's just do a crease PG, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3 or 4. And let's do a quick polish by features. What's going on this side? This is where I should have been more prepared, and I can just pull in some clothing from Artlist Designer. I can just download a work outfit or coveralls or something, mechanic's outfit, and just call it a day. Because yeah, this is going to have to connect, and then I want it to loop over again, and it's probably going to be more trouble than it's worth. So the most important thing is I want to make sure I at least get the volumes in that I want to see, and then I can figure out maybe later. A little inflate brush here. Again, kind of playing it fast and loose. Okay. Polyframe on. And you know what? Let's do this. Insert single edge loop. I'm just going to keep the blue, delete hidden, Q mesh. Let's switch this over to extrude, polygroup all. I'm going to hit Control D to subdivide this. And then we're going to say delete lower. And then I'm going to say insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, uncrease all, crease PG. And then let's say get rid of these two. All right. So we've got our color up, and then I wanted to just loop over. I'm just going to take these ones. Sorry about that. I'm just going to take these ones here. Or you know, we can just do all the purple. Extrude, polygroup all, hold down Control, tap Alt to make it a new polygroup here. And then this can be the inside of the collar, the outside of the collar, and then I can just bridge these together. I don't seem to remember this working all that well technically. Let's see. Delete. Single poly. Bridge. Two holes. U to U. We might need to do bridge two polys. Let's try that. I'm just going to test something out real quick. Say bridge. Connected polys, no. And that's just one. Okay. You know what? Let's try this. And then if I wanted to scoot those together, could I Q-mesh? Island? No, it's going to get nasty. Could I put a shape? I could just extrude a shape along here, just a little loop. Yeah, that might be easier. Okay, sorry. It's been a while since I've done a color. But what might be easier is just to have let's duplicate this off. I'm going to say I want to steal, say delete hidden, delete hidden, delete auto groups, just the green, insert polygroup. I need a little more resolution, so I can hit Control D. Delete lower. Let's try this. Insert single edge loop here, here. And then now, if I want to put, give me a sec. Sorry, this is like the most boring of the boring. For really no reason at all. You can just sculpt out, you can just control drag out. You don't need to worry about it this much, but now I'm gone down the rabbit hole. I'm too far in. I'm going to go ahead and say stroke the curve polygroup border here. We have just a simple cylinder I want to pass through. We're going to turn off X symmetry so we can give ourselves that top part of the loop. I want to depth this in, which y'all know means embed this here. Yeah. So we'll go back here to curve modifiers. We'll say delete that curve, hide point, visibility hide point, invert that, delete hidden. I'm going to do a quick group by normals just so I can steal the pink, delete hidden. And then for the bottom of this, I'm going to say polygroup U you, and you I don't need anymore. Delete hidden. Oops, sorry. Delete hidden. Extrude. Polygroup all. Flip. Display properties flip. We've done already. Let's do a quick group by normals. And now I can say extrude polygroup all here. And extrude polygroup all here. And now we've got our stinking collar deleted. Ugh. Okay. Let's see. Extrude polygroup island, if that'll work. So I just want this far one to go out. Oops. I want to keep the same polygroup though. It's not, oh, it's fine. I can fix it. So again, we'll just do a quick group by normal, geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld. We'll go ahead and say insert single edge loop just to kind of even this geometry out. If I want to thicken this up, I can say extrude polygroup island, just hold down shift as I pull along those surface normals. Same thing with this. Like so. We'll just go ahead and do a crease PG, crease level of 2, smooth div of 3. And now we've got, now he's got like a preppy color. Let's turn on X symmetry here. We'll go ahead and scooch this in a little bit. And just like we've been doing, you can do a polish by features. Oh, now that I'm seeing it, it looks like his color's flipped a little bit. That's fine. And again, a feature is a polygroup and a crease border. So if you're getting through here and you're getting, you know, wobbly with your geometry, just do another quick polish by feature. Let's do open circle. We'll really polish it down, and that'll kind of smooth it out a little bit. So anyway, sorry about that. We'll turn off perspective. We'll go back in here. We'll say, go back up in our subdivision history. We'll pull this out just a tad. That A pose is a little bit much. Let's switch over here to mask lasso, Control Alt, so we can mask this out. We'll Control Tap to blur that mask out just a little bit. In fact, here's the trick. Mask lasso really far away will give you a nice smooth transition, even on high-res meshes. So we can go and just relax that look a little bit. Smooth that out a little bit. C, Alt, Fill. This one too, we could start with just like, it looks like a, I don't know, kind of a mask, kind of a grungy base, and then we'll build up the whites with the standard brush. Oh, that's why my standard brush is acting a little bit weird. I had a square in there. So white mask here. I might just pull his human ears in just so they're not really interfering with the mask. I'll go a little bit brighter, maybe a little cooler as well as the paint layers up. So we did a Jason Voorhees, and we did a Mike Meyers, and on my channel on Thursday, I don't know, we'll do like a Freddy Krueger or a Hellraiser or something. There's a couple fun ones that'll show off some fun functionality. So here, and then I'm just gonna load this up real quick. We're streaming Halloween, and we are looking at Voorhees 02. You know what? Actually, let's go back here. I'm going to steal this, append, yoink. What's he wearing? They shop at the same store. Okay, his is kind of green, maybe brown. Fine. You know what? And we'll give him a color too. So we'll Alt tap. We'll go back here. We'll Alt tap the color. We'll append that over to me. I think. Nope. Append the collar. There we go. And then C, we'll just do like a dusty green. There's our two gentlemen. Okay, I'll get caught up here and then I will head on out. Ooh, another bot I get to block. Okay. Cautious layers, yes. Record button, turn on and off. Yep. Usually it'll yell at you if you're trying to record on a layer. It'll kind of tell you. Jeff Bezos. Exercise beginner artists who are learning sculpting, improve fundamentals of sculpting and overall sculpting. I don't really have one. There's better sculptors out there than me that might have tips on, you know, little exercises you can do. Kind of like line work exercises, but really just observational skills and then matching what you're observing, I suppose. Like versus learn anatomy, practice. Flat coin and sculpt world map to one side. How can I do right UV? I do have a coin somewhere on my YouTube channel here, don't I? That's really off project. Relief sculpt. Yeah, I think this one might, the bas relief might work for you. Get rid of the brush by just linking that in just a second. Okay, good. I'm at the bottom here. Cool. Thank you for the kind words, everybody. Do you have any video where modern game assets, hard surface character workflow is oops, it just jumped. Do you tell it to produce in a mesh itself in ZRemesh and how much room to leave for substance? My rule of thumb is if it doesn't break the silhouette, I just do it in a texture. It frees you up. So basically anything that I'm going to put the polygons in to make sure that the volume is there, then I'll go ahead and sculpt that in. But then if it's like little stuff or little wear and tear, little tiny things, then you do that in the texture map, if that makes sense. But I don't really have one on that specifically. I think the closest I have for like game res stuff would be actually a lot of it's let's see, the Mechanical Skull series I think goes into a bunch of you know what, it's right here, isn't it? Yeah, so the free stuff on my YouTube channel is the high-res mechanical, and the painter bakes in materials and rendering, and then if you want to do the game res and then baking in Marmoset and stuff like that, that's all on the Gumroad. But as far as just like, I don't know, high-res mechanical skull stuff, I think my playlist here, somewhere on here is a mechanical skull. Oh, there it is. You can check that out. You go into bakes, not necessarily the manual retopology, but cool. Thank you, Zethros. Glad the videos are helping out. All right, everybody. Cool. Well, I'll let you get green as parts 2 through 5, blue is afterwards. See, that's the kind of in-depth knowledge I need if I'm going to be doing this. In fact, I need it. It looks like they're wearing silk golf shirts, so I need to change that material. But hey, you get the. These look like these guys are going out to like a Bass Pro Shop or something. Sculpting skin detail in ZRemesh, or doing texturing phase of Substance Painter. I like sculpting in ZBrush. That's just the funnest thing. But when it comes to like skin stuff, I like to do in ZBrush for some reason. But when it comes to like wear and tear and metal and, you know, edge wear and rust and dirt, I like doing that in Substance more. So I'm 41. Yikes! Isn't that nuts? Aged. Thanks, everybody. I'll let you get back to it. We'll let these guys hit the links. And like I said, I'll be on my channel on Thursday. And we'll just keep going. How about that? Cool. Thanks, everybody.